Well, ski and welcome in to an emergency edition of the PHNX Diamondbacks Podcast. My name is Derek Montilla, occasionally known as your mayor of this joint, especially when I'm here at home. But more importantly, mayor of Chase Field, mayor of the people, and someone who last night got a chance to get very excited about something that it is a reality today. Ketel Marte has been extended by the Arizona Diamondbacks. Remember last night I said, you get an extension, you get an extension, you get an extension. Everybody except Rome. Rome doesn't get an extension. But Ketel Marte has been granted an extension. They have agreed to a contract extension which runs through 2031. This is according to Nick Picoro of the Arizona Republic. Our guy Mike Rodriguez at Deportes, Mike Deportes last night was the first to report that the two sides were in discussion about a new contract. Connor Mormon says, ski soon to be teal bearded. Derek, did we decide on teal? Was that the color? I wasn't thinking clearly because I don't want, can I do purple? I'd rather do purple. We'll have to have a talk about this, but that's after we're done talking about Ketel, because this is for a lot of fans, for a lot of people, this is great. For some people, mostly our guy Damon Dog, he has questions, and we're going to get to that before we get out of here. But according to Nick Picoro of the Arizona Republic, the contract extension is worth in total $116.5 million, but with $64 million in new money being added to the existing contract extension that Ketel signed back in 2022. Marte's previous extension already had him locked up through 2028. Essentially, he was locked up through 2027 with a club option for 2028. This deal now adds the 2028 season for sure, no longer a team option, 29, 30, and 31 seasons to his contract, with $64 million being added. Picoro adds that there's also a player option for 2032, essentially. I believe that if the math is correct there, that would keep Ketel Marte a Diamondback until age 38, age 39, which is pretty much the rest of his career. So I have bad news for Shane, who is producing me today. I got to give a shout out to Shane Diefenbach. You're never getting Ketel back on your Mariners team.
I didn't want him back anyway.
You're a liar, and you know it. You talk about it every single day.
He would have came to Seattle and hit 210.
Yeah, and that's probably true.
And we all know that's true.
That's probably true. But instead, he does not do that. He very much puts up good numbers, and he has been killing it over the last two seasons for the Diamondbacks. Let's take a look at Ketel's stats here for the 2023 and 2024 season combined. Ketel has been outstanding. 283 batting average over those two seasons with a 365 on-base percentage, a 520 slug. His OPS is 885. He has 61 home runs in those two seasons and 11.7 WAR, or baseball reference WAR. I guess I can't be completely a clown anymore when it comes to my WAR jokes. But so this deal also adds $46 million in deferred money. So we did it. We deferred some money, folks. We pushed that. We kicked that can down the road. But according to Jesse Rodriguez of ESPN, the 2031 player option is worth $11.5 million. Rodgers adds that escalators would allow Marte to earn $149.5 million over the course of the deal, and a 5-team no trade clause is in there as well. So this is fantastic news, because all things considered, this is going to keep Ketel Marte a Diamondback most likely for the rest of his career. There's a good chance he could play beyond this. There's a good chance that maybe even just sticks around for a little bit longer. It's interesting because the age of players is definitely something to pay attention to, but we've seen quite a few Major League Baseball players still be fairly elite at an older age. And I think that the biggest thing that this does is it keeps Ketel here through, essentially 2031. That's great news. I think we can start building that statue out there at Chase Field. And honestly, I just think that this has been a really, really cool thing that Mike Hazen is doing for this team. Did it need to be done? Maybe not. The Diamondbacks already had Ketel Marte locked up through 2028, right? And there's a chance at that point that you could see a decline in his performance. But when have we ever had what Ryan brings up here? When have we ever had Mr. Diamondback? Oh, and BC's here to call us the deferred D-backs. That's excellent. That is excellent. You, sir, made the most hilarious comment of the day, Mr. Dodgers fan. But yeah, man, I'll tell you, Connor wants to build the Ketel statue now. Do we really have to wait until he's done playing? I don't think so. I don't think we have to wait for anything. I do think that, again, with someone like Ketel Marte, he started to perform at his best, after the contract that he was given. When you take a look at his 2022 season and earlier in his career, he still put up decent numbers, but nothing like he did when the Diamondbacks locked him into that, that contract. Once he was, his future was secured, you saw him play some of his best baseball. We discussed this last night when Mike Rodriguez first reported this, but there is a lot to be said about the history that Ketel Marte made in the playoffs and what a consistent player he's been for this team. And I mean, you definitely want to keep your superstars here. Kyle says Ketel is happy, so we are happy. Simple as that. It is simple as that. And I think, there is a nice security to it, but there, you could argue that this adds seasons to his contract where he'll be essentially 36, 37, 38 years old. Right. And I mean, not a lot of Major League Baseball players are still producing at the same level at that age. I just think that he strikes me as the kind of guy that could be that. Right. And I mean, again, you look at a lot of these guys and what they're doing in their age 37, 38 seasons, and it's not that unheard of. We just started talking yesterday about the idea of extending Eugenio Suarez, who's 33 years old, right? A 5-year contract extension could keep Suarez here through his age 38 season, age 39 season. I don't know if it's the worst thing. And I think more than anything, the Diamondbacks have a chance to build their entire team for the long term. They're going to lose some players, especially after this season. There's a lot of guys that are in a contract year, and obviously you want to do everything you can to prevent those guys from leaving. However, some things are inevitable, and it does feel like there's a potential end to a relationship with several guys that are in their walk year, right? So I don't know, but Mark says, so is Marte making more money in 2026, 2027, 2028 than his previous extension? Well, I don't have the breakdown at this time of what he's making per season, but this deal adds $64 million onto his existing contract. So that's the increase in value. And then it adds 2028, which I'm imagining isn't factored into the total here because it was a team option year, 2029, 30, and 31. So essentially, it does seem like he's receiving an increase on current seasons that he's getting paid as well. It is a new contract extension. So overall, it could encompass, it's going to encompass the years that he was already under contract with the previous extension and, change those. But he is getting money for those seasons. So the $64 million is the additional money that's being added to his contract, but so are the years of control by the team. So again, we'll probably get a breakdown of what the contract is annually, and then we can take a look at that versus what his previous contract was. And we might have that information for you by the post-game show tonight. But let's see. We got an update here from Nick Picoro. Oh, Nick Picoro has a breakdown of the new deal. So Ketel will be receiving essentially $20 million for 28, $22 million for 29, and $22 million for 2030. And then the player option in 2031 is $11.5 million. So the player option is that final season. So this is actually just adding on from what he previously had, 28, 29, and 30. Those are the seasons being added on. The player option is for $11.5 million, and that's for 2031. So it's not an additional year on top of that. That's factoring in that player option as the final season. So, but yeah, so the additional money, the $64 million is spread out between 28, 29, and 30. And if you factor in the $11.5 million player option, then that will take it to $75.5 million. So, and yeah, I mean, honestly, I think the one big thing about this that we've talked about on this podcast time and time again is today's money is not tomorrow's money. So when you invest in a player like this and you're locking him in for seasons down the road, 3 years from now, 2028, 2029, 30, you have no idea where the market is going to be for a player of Ketel's caliber. And again, just like the first contract that he signed that seemed like such a deal in 2022, this one seems like it just furthers the overall contract and keeps Ketel Marte a Diamondback for very, very long. So Jordan in the chat says, I think this is happening now. It just shows how much Ketel loves Arizona. He wants to be here as much as we want him to be here. That's great. That's it, man. So I don't know, man. I'll tell you, Ketel deserves it. And even if this added money to his existing deal, isn't he worth it? I mean, doesn't he deserve it? Like we said, the contract extension he signed in 2022 was just a slam dunk, right? So that was ended up looking like such a bargain by comparison to what other players got. And again, this is a chance for the Diamondbacks to keep him here for a very long time. Shane, have you changed your mind at all talking about you missing Ketel?
I mean, like if we're speaking real, I think that goes down as one of the worst trades in the past 2 decades, and one of the worst ideas in the past 2 decades to just let that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what you have to do in a sport where there's no salary cap. Like it doesn't really matter. I know like the money isn't infinite, but when you have a guy that wants to be here and a guy that's producing at his level and a guy that can prove he can be the guy on a World Series bound team, I don't care how much money you're paying him as long as you can keep the lights on.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, again, like you said, that trade was a trade like that rarely comes along where one of the players you got as the additional player ends up being a franchise player like the way that Ketel has been, right? So you get a guy like that in your organization and you hold on to him. You hold on to him tight. Michael Dixon says he tore his ACL running here when he saw the extension. Well, that's why we didn't sign you to an extension, Michael. I'm sorry, but unfortunately the medical test came back and told us not to invest in you. But Sean says, so Gabby is right, is next, right? Probably he should be. It feels like he is the obvious candidate for the Diamondbacks to want to keep around. You got your young core that you've kind of decided to build around, right? And that is Ketel, who is no longer the young core, but the veteran of the core. You got Corbin Carroll extended. You have Brandon Pfaadt extended. You have Geraldo Perdomo extended. It feels like Gabby is next. And honestly, this guy, I'm rocking his shirt. Maybe if he can be as consistent as he's been so far in these few at bats he's had this season, maybe he deserves the extension. I don't know, but I think that Gabriel Moreno is crucial. Like catchers like Gabby don't come around often, and just based on how young he is and what a very important, piece he's been to this team, it feels like it's definitely a priority. Caitlin says she wants Gabby extended. Let's make that happen, Mike. That's next. Or Elise. Is Elise in the chat? Because if Elise is in the chat, we can talk to Mike directly and get him out. But Candace says she's also wearing her Alec Thomas shirt. We're feeling it. Let's go. We want the boys to be happy and we want them to get their money, but we also want to be able to build a competitive team around this. And I think this deal for Ketel Marte to be a Diamondback until potentially 2031 is exciting, and it's exactly that. Ketel's the kind of guy that could potentially lure other free agents to want to come sign here. We saw this with Corbin Burns. Corbin Burnes wasn't exactly the Diamondbacks pursuing Corbin Burnes as much as they fell in his lap. And I will say this for all the people that need to come in the comments. I did not feel like Corbin Burnes had a bad outing. I just felt like it was a disappointing debut for somebody that we really wanted to see come and shove. But he still shoved with his 8 Ks. And please stop coming for me in the comments, because sometimes I just use words in the headline that really don't mean anything, but they mean a lot to you guys. So anyway, I love you guys. We'll be back. Hopefully we'll talk a little bit more about the Ketel Marte extension on the post-game show. Bring you hopefully another very happy win from the Bronx, and get these Diamondbacks rolling to a 4-2 record. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter. I am at cap_caveman with a K. Shane is at Shane Deef. Our show is at PHNX_Dbacks. But as always, all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on all social. We thank you guys so much for your time. We will be back again probably around 7 o'clock-ish. So hope you tune in there. And until then, behave yourselves, enjoy the game. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when you extend everybody.
We all silly like the mayor.